The following is brought to you by Vertical Vet. Rethink your GPO.
Hey everybody, we're excited to have you here on today's Coffee Talk segment. I'm joined with Maddie from Whisker Cloud. She is our partner manager, and today we're going to talk a little bit about demystifying marketing. I know that you guys hear us talk about marketing often. It's one of those things that I think is getting to be more in the spotlight as we're looking at moving our practices up and how they are presenting themselves to your community, to your client base, as we're looking at bringing in new employees, new clients. So it's definitely one of those things that's at the top of a lot of people's minds. But before we go ahead and get into this segment, Maddie, this is called Coffee Talk for a reason. So let's see your coffee mug. What did you bring with us today?
Yes. So this is my coffee mug. It says, good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they're always there. I actually got this with my mom a few years back. So cute little cheesy-ish mug, but great way to go into the weekend.
I love it. Listen, I'm here for all of the cheesy mugs. I think I have 557 of them in my cabinet.
They're typically cheesy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So my mug today is all about the Charlotte skyline. So as you guys may or may not know, Vertical Vet is based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we have a lot of North Carolina pride. So I wanted to just kind of showcase that. And it's one of my favorite mugs. I'm going to shout out to my girl, Casey, for ordering these. And I think they are lots of people's mugs. They hold just the right amount of coffee. So love that. Well, Maddie, thank you so much for jumping on today. I really appreciate it. And I know as we were prepping for this meeting, we were talking about kind of what direction we wanted to take this call, because marketing can feel really overwhelming to a practice manager or a practice owner, right?
Yes, definitely. And thanks for having me. Excited to be here and kind of showcase everything to the Vertical Vet community. But yeah, I would say marketing in the practice can feel sometimes daunting, right? And it is this ambiguous word sometimes. And so I think what I want to really get out of today is breaking down all of the different aspects that help a veterinary clinic build their brand, build their online presence in this space. And so what actions can you take, or what should you be thinking about in order to really achieve your overall brand and showcase, who you are, the mission of your clinic to not just your existing clients, but even prospective clients?
I mean, I love that, because having been a practice manager myself and been in leadership roles of the practice, when I hear the word marketing, it used to make me have a little bit of anxiety. I knew vet med. I didn't know marketing. I mean, gosh, those are advertising agents that do that, or those are commercials. Those are ads that I'm seeing in the publications that I'm reading. How could I, this little own practice manager, feel comfortable and confident marketing? And what does that marketing look like for our practices? Because it's so different just depending on, what community you find yourself in, what kind of client base that you have. But there's a few things that I think, no matter where your practice is, whether you're rural or urban, whether you're a 10-doctor practice, whether you're a mobile practice, there's these key foundational stones of practice marketing that are going to be consistent no matter what type of practice that you have. Yes. I always kind of throw this out there because I think it's the most tangible example of the mindset of marketing. And so I know a few of our listeners and those that are in the peer share have heard me talk about this before, but it's this idea of my logo is on the leashes. What more do I need to do? Right? Exactly. I mean, I have my hospital name, I have my slip leads, I have some business cards at the front desk, maybe a few pens with my logo on it. That's marketing enough. But what we're really looking at is that's brand recognition. Exactly. Those things are brand recognition, right? That's not what we're necessarily talking about when we're talking about how to get your practice name out there in the community. Maddie, do you mind breaking down, just because this is your space, this is your lane, this is what you know best, do you mind breaking down a little bit kind of the difference maybe between really promoting your brand, so in this case it'd be your hospital name, versus the idea of creating some sort of marketing initiative or marketing campaign or marketing plan, if you will, when it comes to maybe some of the things that we can do online or through social?
Yes, definitely. So I think kind of stepping back a bit and even going to like your initial point about it's not just about your logo, is your marketing initiatives and overall plan like really doing what you want it to be doing. And so when we think about the overall initiative, I would say it encompasses so many things. So for example, is your website, doing what you need it to be doing for you? For example, do you have clear CTAs on your websites for those existing clients who might need to book an appointment? And is that readily available? Do you have new client forms visible to help kind of attract new clients and then also streamline processes for your team? On the other hand, your social presence is huge. And I would say, today, and even as we look into the future, we're really seeing social and just all online means becoming a primary way that your clients are going to find you. And so, for example, are your hours up to date on your social, on your Google My Business page? Same goes for your website. And so, in addition, is there consistency across these mediums, like really bringing physical to digital, right? Are you driving by and seeing that logo outside that you're also seeing on the website? And is the look and feel portrayed throughout these different mediums? And so I think it's important, not only can your clients find you, but are they able to really understand like the look and the feel of the clinic that they might be going to or are going to. So in terms of initiative, I would say that's really like the overall idea is putting in place the right things that they all lead to building this overall brand for a veterinary clinic. And then on the like smaller scale side, there's definitely unique ways that I would say veterinary clinics can approach marketing on the like paid advertising side of things, also the SEO side of things, which does build up to their overall marketing strategy too.
I love what you said about kind of bringing that practice feel. So what
Yes.
you're doing in the practice and making sure that that's the same feel that you're getting digitally. Maddie, I read this study recently and it was talking about pet parent demographics. And what we're seeing right now is that our millennial generation, listen, I'm an elder millennial here, I will own it. Our millennial generation is becoming the largest pet owning population that we have.
Yeah.
And when these studies dig in a little bit into the behaviors, the consumer behaviors, right, of this population, what these studies are finding is that this group of people are very motivated by what they're seeing online.
Right.
I'll use myself as an example, right? If I want to go to a restaurant in a new town, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to Google it. And then after Google, I'm going to look at their website and then I'm going to see what the reviews are on social. It is like clockwork on how I recognize new businesses.
You read my mind. It's the top way that at least I and most people, I feel like, if not are headed in this direction again, interact with the local business. And it's so important for a veterinary clinic too. I mean, they're caring for our pets, our family members, and to be able to go in already having an understanding of the look and feel of the clinic, the team that's going to be caring for your pets is so important. And so, like you said, I mean, if I'm going to a restaurant and I'm going to their Yelp page and I'm looking up different photos of food, or I'm even needing to call them, if their hours aren't correct, if their phone number is not correct, it somewhat leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I think the same really goes for the veterinary industry. And all of this plays into the overall look and feel of a clinic. And again, not just being able to find their website, but are you doing all the right things to show your clients who you are, what you stand for, and giving them ways to easily communicate with you too? And again, like you said, showcasing your team on your website to help the clients and new clients understand who their pet's being cared for is huge.
It does, because it gives, I think we try to run our practices like, I'm not going to go so far as to say a family, because there can be some toxic situations there, but we try to run our practices where there's a sense of community. I think that's the best word to use this in this situation. And so when we're trying to establish our practices as a place within this community to bring people together, to treat their pets, to be that, that call in good times and in bad times, right? Because that's what a practice is. They're there for the good, the bad, and everything in between. Yeah, exactly. Is that being able to showcase your team, being able to showcase your lobby, what to expect for an annual exam. There's so many things that I think as veterinary professionals, we don't necessarily feel need attention because we know them so well. So case in point would be the physical exam, right? We've seen 1,001 physical exams, probably more than that. We know what to expect, but for a new pet owner, they may not be really understanding what is the physical exam, what is the annual exam, what do you do, why do you do these things? And that can be a great way to kind of dip your toe into this idea of marketing, right? Could you potentially do a short little video and have record one of your team members or your clients kind of going through a physical exam. I mean, this is a very high level example that I'm using, but these are things that are really gaining traction when we're seeing practices utilize them within their websites and their social.
Totally agree. And to your point, I mean, like an FAQ page could be and is huge for a veterinary clinic and their teams on so many different areas. I mean, if new clients or existing clients are calling in and the front desk team is able to point them in the right direction on their website for those frequently asked questions, I mean, that all goes back to time savings, which is such a big issue in the industry, and time savings for both the front desk team, the entire team, and the client. And I think that's what marketing does come back to in some ways, and for the employees too, is helping the experts help you so you can focus on what you want to be doing and what you care for ultimately.
It's so true. It's almost this idea of like two birds, one stone. So that your marketing plan is something that I encourage everybody to have a marketing plan. There's some educational materials we have on the Elevate user dashboard for any members that are watching this video. I know Whisker Cloud has some resources as well, but creating a plan is really important. But really the reason why that plan is important, one, obviously, because of what we're talking about today, is really getting your practice name and what you do and how you do it into your community. But the other is because there is a direct correlation between positive marketing and efficiency and time savings. So Maddie, you brought up a really great example, and that was, do you have client forms on your website? Are they easy to locate? Think about you're sitting at the front desk, or your CSRs are sitting at the front desk, and they get something before the appointment is there at the office. And they already have all of the client information, or they already have a little bit of a history of the pet that's being, that just moved to the area. From a client perspective, again, as a consumer, I will say that I will do everything online if it means I don't have to have that awkward wait time in a lobby. I just do. That's my normal MO. That's my normal behavior, is to get these things done ahead of time. So not only are you saving the practice time, but also your client's energy and time in filling out those forms. Two birds, 100%. One stone.
Yes, exactly. And, are you marketing all of this that you're doing? Maybe clinics do have new client forms on their website, but is the CTA clear on their website? Is there a social post maybe for new clients on their Instagram or Facebook or in their about section where they're able to easily visualize and access these forms? So I think it really goes back to make sure you're marketing and promoting the right things. And even, on the time savings piece, like your online pharmacy links, like, is that in the nav bar? For example, I mean, all of these things really, really go hand in hand about how visible it is to the client or the new client.
Absolutely. And it's no joke. Vertical vet services, independent practices, and it's not anything that any of us are not aware of. But that is kind of this idea of a lot of corporates are popping up, these corporately owned practices, which listen, that's great. We don't need to go into that conversation today, but what we're seeing these corporate practices excel at is getting information out into the community about that practice. They're really good at keeping up-to-date information on their websites. They're really good about putting out interactive social posts that are designed to get client feedback.
Right.
And one of the other things that they're doing is they promote their prices as part of their marketing strategy. Now, to each their own. I'm not saying go out there and you have to, publicize the cost of everything that you do, but this is what we're challenged with. This is what our competitors are doing in this space.
Exactly. And you alluded to this, but content is king, I think is a good way to put it. And especially on the SEO side of things. So hasn't been something we've discussed yet, but we at Whisker Cloud really value an SEO strategy. And I feel like in some ways it can appear as a daunting or confusing word for some, but it really boils down to, experts doing some research on what clients are looking for, what content they're looking for, whether it be seasonality or general when they're looking for a vet in my area, and creating content that includes specific keywords that will help you and your business rank essentially on Google to acquire those new clients or to retain those existing clients when they're searching for different topics for Dental Health Month, for example. I mean, SEO is really big, and same on the paid advertising side of things. You mentioned kind of competing in the market, and we're seeing an uptick in paid advertising and being able to understand what consumers are searching for again and help the independent clinic thrive and compete on the paid advertising side of things is huge, and understanding how to differentiate yourself in that regard.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I think it's changed so much, 5, 10, 20 years ago, there's definitely this mentality that like, if you build it, they will come, right? If you build a practice, they're going to come. And I think that still rings true, especially depending on the community that your practice is in.
Definitely.
But there's practices popping up all over the place. There's corporate practices that are coming up. There's different types of veterinary practices that we haven't really seen before, whether that's practices that are just specializing in wellness care or those that are just specializing in end of life care. Then there's everything in between. And so there really is this need, and especially as we find ourselves in the digital age, is to take what we know has worked previously. So maybe you had a practice that's well established and it's been around for 20 years and you have a really solid client base. But in order to continue to keep that client base and to grow that client base, you're going to need to bridge the gap into this idea of digital marketing, and really understanding what some of these words mean and how to put your practice so that the search words are coming up that are related to your practice. There was something you said earlier, Maddie, that was we kind of chatted about a little bit, but that's kind of bringing the essence of your practice to your social sites, to your website. And I'm going to say vice versa is true as well. Consistency, like content, is really important. And so when we're finding some of our well-marketed practices, those that are they're doing great when it comes to staff retention. They have, a great client base. They're continuously growing that client base. When we look at what they're doing, there's consistency among what it feels like in the practice to what they're feeling on the website to what's being showcased on social media. And it's almost like a circle. It can go either direction within this circle because everything's feeling as if it was a part of the same entity. It's not disjointed.
Exactly. And, back to your earlier point, like it's not, marketing is so important, but it complements everything else that's going on in the practice to help with, increasing and keeping customer satisfaction at an all-time high, right? Word of mouth is still huge. I mean, it's not just about finding your vet clinic online. I do think it's so important today and is going to continue to be so important. But like you said, it really comes full circle. And one thing that comes to mind is your Google My Business page again, or your Yelp page, and responding to negative reviews or interacting with folks on your social media accounts is really huge on the digital side, and can really showcase like what you stand for, who you are. And again, going back to how we utilize Facebook, Instagram, Yelp for locating and finding different local businesses. Like if I see a restaurant responding to a negative review, I mean, vote of confidence, I think the same goes in this case. It can be huge to really make sure your Google My Business page is updated, but also responding to those negative reviews if they're there. Hopefully not too many, but
yeah, no, I mean, it's true. And this is reality, right? I mean, we could do the best job ever and still have someone leave our practice unhappy. And that's a really good point. And it all ties in together. I think that's really one of the highlights that Maddie and I really want to showcase today, is that there is kind of this idea that it's all related. Again, what you're presenting online is similar to what you're presenting in person. And so you can have the greatest website and you could be posting on social, at the greatest cadence for the perfect algorithm in order to really get out there. But at the end of the day, if that client walks into those doors and what they're experiencing is that completely different, maybe the lobby's dirty and there's all of these things happening and there's clients yelling at each other and a dog runs past because it got out of treatment area, right? There's a lot of things that can happen. And so it's really important to make sure that there is a solid representation and an accurate representation of what you're putting online, how you're marketing your practice in this digital age, and how you're marketing that practice in real life, when you have clients walk in the door. One of the things I always talk about when I'm working with practices and marketing is that it can be something as easy as, uniforms, right? Having the same color scrubs can present to a customer, to a client, professionalism. And it's not that having printed scrubs don't do that, but look at our military. Our military is in a uniform for a reason. It's one of those things that we're seeing in different types of corporate settings, different types of hospital settings, medical settings, because it's the way that your team is presenting, of marketing your practice to that client who's in your front door. So a lot of different aspects all kind of come into play when you're thinking about your marketing plan. They really do.
Right. And digitally and physically, like you said, I mean, you can focus on your SEO, your social, building your reputation, and even your Google My Business page, online reviews, and website. But the physical presence and experience that a client gets in the clinic, if it complements and kind of matches what you're doing digitally, I think it's the perfect recipe for success.
It really is. And it's what our corporate competitors are doing. It really is. One of the last things I want to talk about before we jump, Maddie, is this idea of community engagement, because I think that sometimes it gets overlooked as something that can be added into a marketing plan. When we're talking about community engagement, it's not, just sponsoring that softball team or, that youth soccer organization, things like that. It's getting out and getting involved and getting eyes on what you do in an environment that's not your practice necessarily. So I've seen some really great things that have been promoted with practices, everything from a dog wash supporting a local rescue that they were able to promote on their social sites, on their website. They told all of their clients about it. And then they also got buy-in from other businesses in the community to showcase that the practice was doing this. This is grassroots marketing at its finest. That's what community engagement is supposed to do. And I think that there's an opportunity to take what you're doing in your community and showcase it digitally so that you're getting eyes on what you guys do, how what you value, what the direction is that you want to take your practice is kind of what I'm thinking of as community engagement.
100%. And you nailed it on the head. It's bringing what you're doing physically to digital means. And it doesn't mean that there's not that physical interaction or it's not incorporated, but it's just being able to showcase, all the amazing things that your team might be doing, in the back or in the front or outside of the clinic to your clients who wouldn't already or would have already seen that, and helping them to understand your team, like again, who's caring for their pets, I think is huge, like you said, and just continuing to have that consistency. So making sure it's updated on your website, maybe on your recent events page or meet the team page, and then same on social as well.
Absolutely. And it's also helping for hiring. I recently read another study, I think Indeed did it, and they were looking at businesses that had the highest likelihood of having a candidate apply and be hired within 30 days. And what they found is that practices or businesses, in this sense, that promoted their business in video and in picture had a much higher likelihood of having candidates apply and be hired in 30 days than those that did not. I think everybody's used to reading, or typing up those job posts of what you're looking for, whether it's associate veterinarian, whether it's a technician. But what we're seeing is, there's a lot of options for these candidates to go.
Right.
And what's unique about your post, about your job post, that's going to get them to want to apply. And so being able to think about, okay, I want to market my practice to a group of individuals who is looking for a job. What are the things that I want to see or that I would want to showcase that makes my practice unique? Maybe you have a really cool lake in the area. Maybe outdoor recreation, you're in the mountains and that's a big part of your community. Or, maybe you live in a historic town and that's kind of a really unique setting. So it's this idea of marketing your practice within your community to those that are wanting to apply. Same kind of philosophy.
100%. And to be honest, I think, your marketing is just as important for your employees and your team as it is for your clients, right? And all of the things you said, exactly what I was thinking. But in addition, it's, showcasing to the potential employee or the existing employee that you really care about modernizing your practice and making sure that you're putting your best foot forward for your clients. And to your point, I mean, having a careers page, on the Whisker Cloud side, we're constantly helping clinics build this out. And it's so awesome to be able to showcase on that website, not only the look and feel of the team, but list different job postings and then promote those out on different mediums is really huge. And again, it goes back to that time savings piece of, as in my opinion, if I was looking at applying to a veterinary clinic or just in general here, I mean, if I'm going to a website and I see that there's consistency across all platforms on the website, the nav bar is updated, they're showcasing these clear CTAs to book an appointment for new clients. I mean, that really shows like the depth, I think, of the clinic and what they value and care for. And it immediately, you can appear more attractive to candidates because, maybe you are using outside third-party solutions. And that again goes back to the time savings piece of helping the staff and empowering them to focus on what they want to be doing, whether that be front desk or caring for our pets. And so to a candidate, I think it's, you can appear more attractive in that way for sure.
Absolutely. So, I don't want anyone to get to the end of this video and be like, oh my God, I have to get a website. I have to get a Google. I have to look at this and I don't know what this means. And I got to get my social. And I don't have an Instagram. Should I have an Instagram? Like, okay.
Step by step.
I don't want anybody to do that. This is step by step. So I feel like Maddie would agree with me. Take one thing and say, this is what I want to focus on. Maybe you want to focus on the first thing being a plan. How do you want to focus your marketing efforts for the rest of the year? Is that going to be, on okay, well, my website's okay, but I do feel like we could do more on social, or, I really want to get more involved with my community, or I'm struggling finding candidates. So should I focus my marketing efforts to be able to double dip and be able to acquire new clients and new hires? So really focus on that one thing that you want to start. Do not feel like you have to bite off more than you can chew and jump into the deep end and say that you have to do all of it, because then it gets really, really overwhelming. So one thing at a time, and check your resources. So for Vertical Vet members, we have a ton of marketing resources in the Elevate user dashboard. Maddie's here with our preferred partner, Whisker Cloud. They have, a ton of resources. You guys have a ton of resources.
Yes, on the blog, even on the Elevate dashboard, really from content regarding, is my website doing what it should be, to how do I build my reputation and then continue managing it in my community.
A ton of resources, and outside of Vertical Vet, of Whisker Cloud, tap into other partner organizations that you're utilizing in your practice. Maybe that's Zoetis. Zoetis has a ton of resources that are kind of plug and play. So if maybe you want to promote and start putting a little bit more energy into marketing through your social channels, don't feel like you have to suddenly be a graphic designer and a content creator, because a lot of the organizations that you're purchasing from have tools that are already plug and play.
Yep, I would agree. Starting small is important. Like, even just, I think website is most important, right? Like looking at your website and thinking about some of the things that we discussed, Megan, like, is it doing what I want it to be doing? Like, am I attracting new clients, or kind of streamlining that new patient check-in process? All of those things are just stepping stones to help build your brand in general.
Yeah. And be creative and think
Yeah.
outside the box. We have a new member, Maddie, that signed up not too terribly long ago. And they have branded wine that they offer. They kind of have a tasting room that clients can visit when they're there with their pet. We've had practices sign up that have a beauty salon that they, that's next door to the practice that they've partnered with. There's some really unique things that we're seeing out there that at first glance may be like, what? But then really we're seeing consumers appreciate some of this uniqueness. So don't feel like you have to stick to this, square box idea of what marketing is. You can put your own flair in it as a practice. You can get your team buy-in, what's important to them. And the last little tidbit of information is share the load. As a practice manager or a practice owner, this does not all have to rest on your shoulders. You may have a team member who is very digitally inclined, and maybe it's their, social becomes their responsibility, that, to kind of house all of the images, to take those videos throughout the day. Or, maybe you have someone that just really understands wanting to create or an event. They really like events. And so they want to do more on the community outreach side of things. Right. So share the load, right, Maddie? You really have to.
Yes. And again, there's so much content out there that folks can rely on to even get more educated on all of the topics that we're talking about too.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, I know it was a lot today. Deep breaths. You totally got this. If you have any questions about marketing, Vertical Vet, websites, anything that we discussed today, obviously reach out to your Vertical Vet member resource advisor. I'll also have Maddie's contact information in the comments and below, just so that you can reach out directly to her with any of those digital questions that you have. She's more than happy to take those. Maddie, thank you so much for jumping on today. I really appreciate having you here for Coffee Talk.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, everybody, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.